On today's Daily Slab, we are going to be looking at a Star Trek trender. Yeah, that's right, Star Trek. We are also going to be covering a community spotlight of a guy who is in the hobby, who is also on a baseball card, but not a baseball player. And we are going to be covering a who's hot, who's not of the Angels that is just somewhat hard to believe. So sit back, relax, and enjoy today's Daily Slab. Welcome everyone to the Daily Slab. I am Nate, and the trender for today is the U.S.S. Enterprise. You know the ship from Star Trek. If you're like me, you probably don't like Star Trek as much as you like Star Wars, and I'm guessing that there are plenty of you like me watching this video or listening to this podcast. And the reason I'm guessing that is because Star Wars has sold worldwide box offices over 10 billion sales for tickets. Star Trek, on the other hand, only a little over 2 billion, despite having roughly the same amount of movies that have come out over the years. Star Trek came out in 1966, Star Wars came out in 1977, so Star Trek even had an 11-year head start, and yet you can see where the two have diverged. Star Wars significantly more popular than Star Trek. But it's not just in the box office that they're more popular, it's also in the card market. You have Card Ladder. They've only tracked 3 different Star Trek cards that came out in 1976. They're tracking 3 of them, whereas they are tracking, and 15 different grades among the 3, whereas they are tracking a grand total of 7 Star Wars cards with 50 plus graded copies between the cards. So not only is it more popular in real life, it's more popular in cards, Star Wars is. So, it's kind of interesting to see a Star Trek card up here. U.S.S. Enterprise, very popular, very famous, and yet it's way down the list. The last sale here of $100 for this PSA 8 is actually cheaper than 4 other PSA 8 variations on the card ladder for Star Wars, despite the fact that there's only 7 Star Wars cards tracked on card ladder, and there's 4 of them. More than half more expensive than this U.S.S. Enterprise card, but for what it's worth, this U.S.S. Enterprise is up 285% all time. And for you Star Trek lovers, that means you can get cards cheaper of your favorite show than, say, I could for Star Wars, which is my preferred space sci-fi. All right, on to the post of the day, and you've got a pretty cool one here. So if you know Shorty's Cards, Eric, he is a great guy. He is in the community, and in the hobby community, and he also used to be a bat boy for the Atlanta Braves. And because he was a bat boy for the Atlanta Braves, he ended up getting on a card. Back in 2001, Fleer Ultra, Armando Galarraga had a card in which you can see him high-fiving Eric there in the corner. Not all of Eric, but some of Eric made a baseball card, which is more than I can say about myself, and it's probably more than you can say about yourselves, unless you're watching this and happen to be a baseball player, a basketball player, a football player, or something. Likely none of us have a card, and yet Eric got to show up on this card. And what makes it even more interesting is that Eric didn't know about this. He just found out about it this past month, which is insane because this card came out in 2001. So 22 years later after this card came out, Eric is finding out that he is on a baseball card. Quite the story, very cool thing to stumble upon. Probably very surreal for him. So shout out Eric, Shorty's Cards on Instagram. You should give him a follow if you haven't already. Great guy and pretty cool. Just pretty cool to get to see a guy I know on a baseball card like that. And then lastly, in Who's Hot, Who's Not, we've got the Los Angeles Angels. So, this is the most Angels thing I think I've ever heard. Obviously, the Angels have the 2 best players in baseball. Maybe not currently the 2 best players in baseball. Ohtani is, but Trout is struggling a little bit for Trout standards, 850 OPS there. But still, the 2 best players in baseball for years now. And they haven't made the playoffs. And this year, they're getting closer to the playoffs. They still have 3 teams in front of them for the second wild card spot, so it's not a guarantee that they make the playoffs, even though they are 6 games above 500 at 42 and 36. But still, they have had great players, and yet they have lost. And so, the Angels, I feel like, to me, are a picture of really good players and not a lot of winning. And this weekend, they had the most Angels series against the Rockies I've ever seen. They scored 32 runs in the series to the Rockies 12. 32-12. And they lost 2 of the 3 games. They scored 13 runs in 1 inning in the series, more than the Rockies scored in the entire series. And they lost 2 out of 3 games. And obviously they had the 25-1 game win against the Rockies, in which they scored 13 in the third and 8 in the fourth. Amazing game for them, but to lose the series, really disappointing for the Angels. They got to win all these games heading into the second half of the season, and they're not doing it, and it's likely the only chance they have at keeping Ohtani is making the playoffs. If they miss the playoffs completely, I have a hard time seeing Ohtani staying, so we'll see. But these series against bad teams like the Rockies, you got to win, and the Angels are not winning them. All right, and one last thing. It is the 26th or the 27th, which means our 30th SGC submission is going out soon. You should be able to still potentially get your cards in if you get them out in the mail today and probably pay for a little bit more expensive shipping. You should be able to get them to Franklin for the 30th submission if you want to. Remember, not only do we have $18 grading, but we also have $12 Pokemon grading right now, which you can get a coupon if you want to send in your Pokemon cards. And we have the special $15 football grading that you can get any football card graded for $15, and you can toggle that by going to slabstox.com/grading, fill out all your info, and then clicking on that. Somebody sent in a Lamar Jackson NT RPA number to 99. And it only costs $15 to grade with no markups at all. PSA would mark you up drastically to grade that. SGC, it costs you a flat $15. You don't have to worry about anything else. So if you want to send in your cards, slabstox.com/grading. All right, thank you everyone for watching today's Daily Slab. If you enjoyed this video, please click that like button. And don't forget to subscribe. And I will talk to you tomorrow for the next Daily Slab. See you, everyone.